In today's Zoom class, we are going to start Indian philosophy, and the first topic of Indian philosophy which I am taking up is Jainism. And regarding Jainism, I can tell one more thing, that this is very important topic, not only from a philosophy optional point of view, but also from GS4 ethics point of view also, because usually when you talk of Indian India-based ethics or ethical theories, Jainism is one of the important theories in that. So we will today we will be starting with Jainism. But before that, as usually we take last week's because last week we completed Western philosophy, and the last topic which we covered was Hegel. The one question I gave, I'm going to give you the model answer for that. So we'll start with that. But before that, I just want to tell all the viewers. See, every Zoom class in the end, I give a model question, and I do tell that if some student wants to send me for evaluation the PDF he can send, I will evaluate and get back to him. But this window for sending the question and PDF is open for 1 week only, because once I give the model answer for that, there is no point in evaluating, because then you can yourself find out what are the deficiencies and you can improve upon. Because some students have sent the question, I mean, of previous 4 or 5 weeks or something like that. So, due to paucity of time, I am not going to take up henceforth such questions, but whosoever has sent till now, I will anyway evaluate and send back to uh, that student. But my request is the evaluation, this thing is open for 1 week, because once I give the model answer, there is no point in getting that evaluated by me. And another thing, I'm going to start a test series also very soon. Just after your prelims are over, we will start test series for philosophy optional as well as for ethics also. Because as you may be knowing, in philosophy group also I have posted the ethics classes I am taking up on Sunday. Some of you have already joined that, and the notes, etc. There is separate Telegram group, there is separate WhatsApp group, and there is a separate YouTube channel also. There again, I am putting some videos. In fact, in ethics, I have started one model answer for a question per day. So either case study or for the theoretical question. So that I have already started, and two answers I have already put along with some ethical theories also, so that any student can join if he is interested and see that. In philosophy also, in next 1 or 2 weeks, I'm going to start one question per day. I mean, it will be either from Western philosophy or from Indian philosophy, or uh, from philosophy of religion or socio-political philosophy, depending on what uh, 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 sequence we follow. But one question per day I'm going to take up and give you the model answer. Maybe by October end, we will be able to take about 100 model questions. This will be besides the test series which I will be launching. So that also I'm going to take, and these model answers I will be putting on the YouTube channel. So there you can see. In Zoom classes, anyway, we will continue with the coverage of topics as well as the model answers for the questions which I am taking up on weekly basis. So this is what I wanted to say for uh, before I take up the uh, model answer for last week's this thing. If you remember, last week we have given this question: all identity is identity and difference. This is a statement from Hegel, and this is a critically examine or discuss or elaborate, whatever you can add the word. I mean, this is what was the question last week. So now, if you see what we have done in the answer, now first paragraph basically is the introduction. Identity and difference, identity and difference also expressed as sameness and otherness. So basically when it started and how it reached to Hegel. So this is what it started from Plato's Sophist and then it continued. So this is basically first paragraph is the, in a way, introduction kind of thing. In fact, this answer is fit for long answers, maybe of 20 marks or something. So if the question comes for 10 marks, about 150 words, then we have to reduce it accordingly. So, but as I told, we have to prepare in such a way that if the question comes of 10 marks, 15 marks, or 20 marks, we should be able to write something. So at least all the points we need to cover. So basically, the first paragraph is introduction. Now, second paragraph is basically the explaining what is identity. In fact, second and third paragraph we will be explaining what is identity and difference, and how all identity is identity and difference. And then subsequently we will take up critical evaluation of the whole this idea. The critical evaluation, definitely there will be some positive points, some value to this statement, some uses for this, and then the criticism from various philosophers, various critics also, we will take it up. So this is what has to be, I mean, the structure of the answer, I mean, whatever. And in the answer, definitely we have to use the philosophical words or the phrases. In fact, I keep on telling ethics class also, to philosophy class students also, I keep on telling, please do have a list of at least about 100 to 150 words and phrases, which you can use frequently in writing answers. And also, I mean, first thing you should understand the meaning. So, in fact, in earlier my suggestions also, I have told, please do keep a good dictionary of philosophy, because that is quite useful. So that you can understand so many terms. Some videos I have posted already, 3, 4 for various philosophical terms, and some other I'm going to put soon on the YouTube channel. But the point is, unless you use those words, unless you understand those words, first thing, you will not be able to understand the topics well, even if you read the books, etc. And you will not be able to write good answers. So this is very important. So please understand that. So now, what is identity and difference, and how all identity is identity and difference? This has been subsequently explained. See, the Plato, sorry, Hegel's philosophy is basically absolute idealism. I mean, we have last week we have seen that, and uh, the what Hegel wanted to tell is that reality is an all-encompassing reality, is an organic and self-consistent whole that reveals itself through it. Now, reality is not to be understood either as pure identity or pure difference, but as a dynamic unity of both. So basically, the absolute reality or absolute, whatever you call for the Hegel, is not only pure identity or pure difference, but rather both. And it's dynamic. I mean, it's not static, because as we know, thesis, antithesis, and synthesis, this keeps on moving from lower to higher this thing. And it is neither simply one nor many, but many in one or one in many. So a unity that contains multiplicity within itself. So this is what absolute uh, reality, or you can say the absolute idea for Hegel. So this has been explained here in the second paragraph. Now, identity and difference basically uh, is also related to concrete universals. I mean, this is again an important thing, because universals, as you know, I mean, are basically, in fact, some of the philosophers have given abstract universals, but for example, Kant has promoted the idea of abstract universals, because uh, I mean, he advocated the idea of nomina and transcendental idealism. So the universals are not basically concrete in the sense that one can feel that, one can know about that, one can observe that, but it's not the case of the Hegel. Hegel says concrete universals, Hegel form, and I mean, concrete universals in Hegel form an organic whole in which individual elements are not lost but integrated as essential components. So, I mean, the same thing. I mean, dialectic process it's every so even in synthesis, you, if you understand, if in synthesis thesis part is also there, antithesis part is also there. So nothing is lost basically. So this is what Hegel has told. So and this whole has referred as absolute, which is not static, but a living, developing totality. It's a moving dialectic totality. Uh, now, for Hegel, every particular thing is initially an aggregate of universals. These particulars, in turn, are integrated into an all-inclusive system of ideas or universals. So basically, same thing. I mean, if you understand the Hegel's process, first, initially, uh, there will be particulars, and then it will be aggregate of universals. Then again, this will become particular for next step, and then again, aggregate of universals will be there. So it continuously moves ahead. So this is what Hegel's philosophy is. So basically, the idea being an organic unity cannot be reduced to mere identity. Since everything is manifestation of the absolute idea, it cannot be reduced to mere difference either. So therefore, it is identity as well as the difference. So reality comprises both identity and difference. And it is the precisely this synthesis that gives rise to life, development, and interconnectedness. So basically, this is the what identity in difference and identity and difference philosophy of Hegel. So ultimately, this the absolute contains both. I mean, identity as well as difference, and it cannot be only one thing. So basically, in this process, Hegel's assertion that all identity is identity and difference reflects the essence of his dialectical method. It closely parallels. I mean, again, you have to, as I told, if you are writing for Indian philosophy, you have to compare with comparative philosophers of Indian philosophy as well as Western philosophy. And if you're writing something of Western philosophy, if there are comparable philosophers of Indian philosophy, that also you have to compare. So here, the Hegel's absolute is comparable to uh, uh, in fact, Visishtadvait, I mean, Advait Vedanta is of Shankaracharya, but Visishtadvaita is of Ramanujacharya. So it compares with Brahma of Visishtadvait of Ramanujacharya. So this is what is mentioned here in the last paragraph of explanation, that the absolute of the Hegel is, I mean, containing all identity and difference, is almost parallel to Brahma of Ramanuja's Visishtadvait, which posits an organic unity qualified by diversity, a reality that is not diminished by difference, but enriched through it. So this is what Hegel's identity in difference. Now, what is its critical evaluation? Let us understand that. Now, see, Hegel's notion of identity and difference, as we, I mean, already earlier also we have seen, it has been used by, I mean, subsequent philosophers in a variety of ways. Karl Marx, one of the important thinkers, he has used it as a materialized Hegelian dialectics, because Hegel's was absolute idealism. Now, and dialectic method was also of idealism kind. Now, Marx used it for materialism. So, Marx theory was dialectical materialism. So, but it was based on Hegel only. Then, accordingly, Paul Tillich and Karl Barth also have used it for their philosophies. However, the strength, I mean, the use or strength, you can say, is also not only, I mean, strength, it comes along with weaknesses also. And the criticism also, several critics have, I mean, given a very, very strong criticism. For example, uh, this all encompassing absolute has been criticized for its to various totalitarian regimes, which we have already, I mean, studied last time also. So, because this authoritarian, totalitarian regimes have justified everything on Hegel's philosophy. I mean, so this is a big negative point for Hegel, because here, I mean, absolute contains everything, all kinds of. So basically, the risk is that the antithesis or genuine particularity will be homogenized. I mean, it will not be accepted as that antithesis or that thesis, but it will become something synthesis. I mean, which absolute, because everything incorporated in absolute. Therefore, there is no opposition. There is no you can say dissent of any kind. So therefore, authoritarian or totalitarian regimes can be justified for that. Now, another critic, Soren Kierkegaard, he has rejected the move emphasizing irreducibility of individual subjectivity, choice, and existential struggle, because here there is no scope of individualism. So accordingly, no scope for any subjectivity, choice, or existential struggle, because uh, uh, Kierkegaard was an existentialist philosopher, so he has accordingly criticized Hegel for that. Similarly, there is another modern philosopher, Theodor Adorno. He critiqued Hegelian synthesis for reconciling contradictions too readily and for muting the dissonance, as I told earlier also, because Hegel's thesis basically rejects any kind of dissidence, any kinds of negative criticism, any kinds of dissonance. So this is included in Hegel's absolute. Then similarly, another philosopher, Jacques Derrida, he has again challenged the Hegelian resolution of opposites, insisting that difference is not a moment to be sublated, but an irreducible condition of meaning itself. So again, he has also said that if there is something difference, you cannot include in everything and say that there is no difference. It has to be really taken into account and established that there is some difference, and it has to be honored as per that. So, but it's not the case of Hegelian philosophy. So, basically, this after this criticism, and another, I told earlier also that modern science, what it says, and modern philosophers, what they say, that also we need to mention. So, uh, the reliance on teleological structure, where history, thought, and reality are seen as necessarily progressing towards reality, because this is Hegel's philosophy. It is a teleological kind of philosophy, because everything moves towards absolute. So, and with an objective. So, the reliance on teleological structure by Hegel, particularly history, has been called into question by postmodern and anti-foundational thinkers also. So this is again important. Another view of postmodern and anti-foundationalist thinkers. Uh, Now, what they have said, grand narratives like Hegel risks overlooking the contingent, plural, and fragmented nature of human experience. This is very true, because see, if everything you unite in absolute, then definitely you are rejecting the plurality, you are rejecting the fragmented nature of human experience, you are rejecting the individuality, and all these things you are rejecting, and in a way you are rejecting democracy also. So this is what they have. However, the importance, despite all this criticism, uh, uh, the Hegel's philosophy has been very, very important, and almost all the philosophers, whether they have taken help of that, subsumed their philosophy into that, or criticized that. So it has been very, very important and influential philosophy. So with this, we can conclude. So basically, this is uh, model some points pertaining to that Hegel's last week's question. Now, I mean, before starting Jainism, I will just show you again the schedule of this May and June. So first, today we will take up Jainism. Buddhism is a big chapter, and Buddhism is important chapter also. So Buddhism we will be taking in 2 weeks basically, because this is big chapter also, and a good number of questions come. Nyaya Vaisesika, again, it's two schools, but interrelated schools in Indian philosophy. So this also will take up in 2 weeks. Similarly, Sankhya Yoga, again, this is interrelated two schools of Indian philosophy. This also will take up in 2 weeks. Then Vedanta is very, very important, and usually 20, 30 marks question. I mean, almost every year, if you see, it comes. So Vedanta, again, we will, I mean, a number of philosophers are involved in that. So again, it will take 2 weeks. So this, with this about uh, eight, or nine classes I will take, in which about 70 to 80% syllabus I will be covering. Now, leftover is, I think, only Mimamsa and Charvaka, and Arvindo, and so many small chapters are left over. So maybe 20% syllabus is left, which you can study yourself. So this is what I'm going to cover in next 2 months, and definitely every week, besides lecture, we will take up the model questions and classes, and all important topics we will be covering. Now, before starting Jainism, as I keep on telling, our study has to be focused. So let us see what is syllabus of philosophy as far as Jainism is concerned. Now, if you see, uh, Jainism is point number 13. So, theory of reality, Saptvanginay, bondage and liberation. So, this is the syllabus of basically Jainism, which we have to cover. Now, after going through syllabus, let us see what is, I mean, year-wise, because 12 years questions I have already analyzed. So, what are the questions in different years asked from Jainism? So, this first is the syllabus only, it has been quoted. Now, what are the questions which have been asked? Let us understand that. So, for example, second question, if you see, what do you understand by Samvara and Nirjara? Samvara and Nirjara, then explain the significance of Jaina theory of liberation. So basically, this whole second thing is Jaina theory of liberation, bondage and liberation. And how many times it has come, if you see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 in last about 10 to 12 years, 5 times, almost every alternate year it has come. Bondage and liberation, of course, in a little different format, but the content almost will be same. So this is then another Jaina theory of Saptavangina, if you see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 times it has come. Almost every year it has come, Jaina theory of Saptavangina. Then another is Syadvad, a contradictory doctrine. So 1, 2, 3, again 3 times. But in a way, Syadvad and Saptavangina are related also, which we will see later on how. So basically, if you see, I mean, if you take it one, then 10 times, but if you take different, then at least 3 times it has come. Then basically another questions have come, at least for example, this Jaina theory of reality. It has come twice. I mean, what are the now main topics in Jaina which we want to study? Let us see that. Important topics of philosophy. Yeah. See, in Indian philosophy, first topic is Jainism in my this thing also. And 4 topics I have identified. First is theory of Saptavangina, second is Anekantvad, third is bondage and liberation, fourth is Syadvad. So these 4 topics we will study in detail as far as Jaina theory is concerned. And before going to these 4 topics, we will also see broader, what is broader philosophy of Jaina. In brief, we will understand each and every aspect, and then we will go to these 4 topics, which are important from the exam point of view, from UPSC point of view. Okay, so now let us start Jainism after analyzing this. See, Jainism basically, as is clear, derives its name from Jin, which means conqueror, or a title given to liberated souls, basically, who have overcome passions, desires, and karmic bonds, attain emancipation. Basically, they have attained the moksha or liberation. So they are called Jin in Jainism. And as you know, they have 24 Tirthankars, last being Vardhaman Mahavir, who has given the whole Jainism. I mean, basically, others have also given, but the main last 24 Tirthankara Vardhaman Mahavir is the key figure in whole Jaina tradition. Now, as I told earlier also, see, Jainism is basically very important from GS4 ethics paper point of view also, because whenever we talk of Indian ethical theories, Jainism is one of the more important theories. So Jainism is philosophy as well as religion. So this is again an important aspect, because once it is religion, it will also affect the morality, ethics, etc. And this is what Jainism is. Now, you may be knowing, I mean, I just want to make it clear. There are 2 traditions in Indian philosophy, heterodox and orthodox. Now, orthodox basically is those philosophical streams which believe in the authority of Vedas. And heterodox are those traditions who reject the authority of Vedas. Now, there are 3 such traditions which we are going to study, heterodox traditions. One is Jainism itself, because they don't believe in Vedas. Another is Buddhism, and another is Charvaka school. So these 3 streams of Indian philosophy, they don't believe in Vedas, authority of Vedas, and therefore called as heterodox. Other Sankhya Yoga, Nyaya Vaisesik, Vedant, Mimamsa, etc., they believe in authority of Vedas and they are called orthodox schools. So this is what we should first be clear that, I mean, this kind of question comes also, which are orthodox traditions and which are, so, I mean, maybe not only this simple, but some related, adding this, some other question can also be framed. I think 1 or 2 years it has come also. So this is important. I mean, we should understand, just to understand the meaning I'm explaining. Now, see, Jainism is basically a philosophy believing in realism as well as pluralism. And how we will see subsequently. See, here the objects perceived are real and manifold. So basically, uh, I mean, what I want to say is Jaina philosophy believes in realism as well as pluralism, and therefore it is one of the main doctrines of Jaina philosophy is Anekantavad. Uh, I mean, there are basically two core doctrines, if we understand like that. One is Anekantavad, which is in a way describes Jaina metaphysics. Metaphysics, as you know, is theory of reality, which discusses about matter, soul, God, and all those things, etc. So this is Anekantavad. Then there is second philosophy, is Syadvad. Syadvad is basically epistemology, which, I mean, theory of knowledge, how you obtain the knowledge of reality, and what are the sources, whether through sense you obtain, whether through reasoning you obtain. So all those things are covered in epistemology. So Syadvad is basically theory of relativity of propositions, and this is Jaina's epistemology. So now let us go to Anekantavad, that is theory of reality, that is metaphysics, which says that reality is manifold. So, and reality is there, I mean, it's real and objects are real and manifold. So this is basically Anekantavad. So let us understand in detail how Jaina's metaphysics of Anekantavad was. Anekantavad is basically the doctrine of manyness of reality. As the word itself suggests, Anek, so you can understand, most of you know Hindi. So Anekantavad means doctrine of manyness of reality, is a realistic and relativistic pluralism. So this is what is Anekantvad. It asserts that universe comprises of innumerable independently real entities, material atoms, and individual souls. So basically, both things, I mean, are innumerable. Number one, material entities, that is matter, and second is soul, that is jivas. So there are many jivas or souls, innumerable actually, and accordingly innumerable material also. This is what is basically Anekantva. And each jiva or each matter material possess infinite characteristics. So this is again important, this thing, infinite characteristics which only an omniscient being such as Tirthankaras can know, can fully comprehend. So first thing, reality is many, and second thing is reality possesses infinite characteristics, and third thing, this infinite characteristics is known by only omniscient persons like Tirthankaras, because they only can comprehend the full reality. So basically another, I mean, little deeper if we go, reality or dravya, they call it dravya. Substance is called dravya. Is a Hindi word or Sanskrit word, you can say. So encompasses multiple qualities, attributes, that is that they are called gunas, and modes, they are called paryayas. So dravya has innumerable gunas as well as paryayas. This is what has been explained in previous paragraph. Now, reality exhibits both permanence and change. This is again important thing. On the one hand, it is permanent, on the other hand, it changes also. Now, see, there has been criticism also of Anekantvad by Vedanta theory, by Buddhism. Now, what Anekantvad says basically that every object has infinite modes, relationships to other entities. Therefore, the judgment about it to be true from a specific viewpoint only. So identity, difference, permanence, and transience coexist as modal characteristics, rendering all propositions conditionally valid. So in fact, this anekantvad basically leads to syadvad. This conditional validity of the statements or doctrines or the truth is basically syadvad, which we will see in next point. So anekantvad basically serves three purposes. Now, one critic or one analyst, J.L. Jaini, has pointed out. Uh, First thing, anekantvad, it serves three purposes. First purpose is it is critique of absolutism. It reveals other philosophies are incomplete, fixed, or singular because they talk of one some absolute, and they are one-sided, basically ekant, singular aspect, that is ekantvad. So other philosophies follow ekantvad, Jainism follows anekantvad. So this is what is one use, you can say. This is a critique of absolutism. Second is tolerance. It acknowledges partial truths in opposing views, fostering coexistence. Because see, if truth is many and one cannot comprehend all, it means everybody is comprehending some truth. So this is what Jaina theory is. Then third is resolution of skepticism. It counters doubt by affirming that all perspective holds some truth when understood contextually. So this is what Jaina theory of Syadvad actually. Now, some examples have been given. You can go through. Now, as I was telling, the epistemological counterpart of anekantvad is syadvad. Now, what is syadvad? Let us understand that. See, anekantvad describes reality as has infinite facets. Syadvad explains that human perception grabs only some aspects, making all judgments relative. Together, they form the backbone of Jaina realism and pluralism. So both Syadvad and Anekantvad, these two are, one is metaphysical theory, another is epistemological theory. They are basically backbone of Jaina philosophy. Now, substance. What is substance in Jainism? Let us go a little deep. As already earlier in one paragraph, it was told that Dravya has infinite attributes and paryas. So same thing is mentioned a little deeper here. Attributes are essential and enduring consciousness in soul, while modes are transient and accidental. So, I mean, they are basically distinguishing between attributes and modes. Now, reality is defined as Sat, integrates three elements: production, destruction, and permanence. That is origin, decay, and permanence. A definition formalized by Umaswati. He was a Jaina philosopher, Umaswati. He has given this definition. Now, Jainism contrasts with other philosophies. Let us understand that also, because comparative things we have to mention in our answers also, and we should know also. See, Buddhism, which we'll be studying next actually, Buddhism has propounded a theory of Kshanikvad, that everything is momentary. Basically, what Buddhism says, everything is momentary. So, I mean, Jaina has given some permanence theory, and Buddhism says everything is momentary. Now, Vedanta says Nityavad. Vedanta has given theory of Nityavad, that is reality as eternal, unchanging, dismissing transient. So basically, if you see, Buddhism is on one extreme and Vedanta is another extreme. Now, Jainism Ekantavad reconciles these extremes, asserting that change via modes and permanence via attributes both are real. So you see, they reconcile both Buddhism and Vedanta. Buddhism says everything is momentary. Vedanta says everything is permanent. Jainism says no, everything is permanent as well as momentary. So everything is fixed as well as changes also. So example also they have given. For example, soul is permanent in its consciousness, yet changes through experiences like joy or sorrow. This avoids the fallacy of ekantvad, mistaking a one-sided view for the whole truth. So this is what Jainism theory of anekantvad as well as syadvad. Now, they have classified the substance also. there are two kinds of substance, extended as well as non-extended. Extended basically possessing spatial extension, and non-extended means nastikai. They have, their Sanskrit name astikai as well as nastikai. Nastikai means lacking extension, namely, for example, time or kal. Now, extended substance, what are extended substance are further divided in jiva, that is living soul. Now, souls are again divided, liberated and bound. Liberated souls are, for example, Tirthankaras, Mahavir being one. Bounded soul, normal human beings, encased in bodies, either mobile, that is humans, with five senses, or immobile. Now, Jainas, they say even plants are also uh, the jivas, and they are immobile, basically immobile jivas. Now, what is ajiva? Non-living, that is motion, rest, space, matter. Matter they call pudgala. So this is basically the division of, if you see, extended substances. Uh, Now, unextended substance, there again division, different kinds of unextended substance, or first thing, ajiva substances again subdivided in dharma, adharma, akas, and pudgal. Now, pudgal is important because this is also related to bondage and liberation of Jainism also. So I will read it. Pudgala is characterized by integration and disintegration, possessing touch, smell, color, atoms combined into compounds, forming bodies and objects akin to Democritus atomism, but distinct from Kanada's Nyaya. So basically, Pudgala or matter is either it can be atomic or it can be compounds, but all bodies, all material is basically Pudgala. Now, time, it's non-extended. Now, Jiva, we should understand a little bit more because bondage and liberation again is dependent on this Jiva and Pudgala. So, Jiva or the soul is an extended conscious substance, distinct yet akin to Atma of Patanjali's yoga or Purusa of Kapila's Sam. See, Sankhya has given theory of Prakriti and Purusa. So, it's, similar to Purusa, but not 100% similar. Similarly, Atma of Patanjali or Atma of, you can say, even Ramanuja also. So, Jiva is in a way similar to that, yet little distinct also. Then again, in its pure state, a soul possesses infinite faith, knowledge, bliss, and power. Anant Chatushtaya. So, they call it Anant Chatushtaya, which means infinite faith, infinite knowledge, infinite bliss, and infinite power. And soul in a pure state. Pure state means liberated state, basically. It possesses all these things. But association with karmic matters, that is Pudgala, obscures these binding into samsara. So then it becomes bonded. Now, uh, again, karma as subtle motor hinders direct knowledge, which is the soul's essence. Liberation frees the soul from matter, granting omniscience. So this is again bondage and liberation thing. We will further also will deal with it. Now, proofs of soul, basically. I mean, why Jaina says that soul is there? I mean, they have given some proofs also. They said some direct proofs are there, some indirect proofs are there. So you can go through that. Now, Syadvad and Saptabhangina. This is theory of epistemological theory of Jaina. And what is that? Let us understand a little deeper. Syadvad is theory of relativity of propositions. This is theory of relativity of propositions, asserts that human knowledge is partial and conditional due to reality's infinite aspects. We have already understood that the matter, the soul, material has infinite aspects, and one cannot know unless one becomes omniscient. One cannot know all aspects. So therefore, human knowledge is partial and conditional due to reality's infinite aspects, and therefore term syat, they have used syat term. This is a Sanskrit term again. This precedes all the judgments, and syat means relatively, perhaps, if you can say perhaps, relatively. So this is meaning of syat, which is Sanskrit word, and this they put before any judgment or any statement, rejecting the absolute affirmation or negation. So this is what Syadvad basically. So Syadvad affirms that propositions are true from specific standpoints, is in specific context, It cannot be absolutely true. It's true from a specific standpoint. This is what Syadvad. Now, Saptbhangina is basically a vehicle for Syadvad. Syadvad is that everything is relative and all propositions are true from some standpoint. They use the word Syad. Now, Saptbhangina basically is a vehicle to explain or to implement Syadvad theory. And it outlines 7 conditional judgments. Now, what are 7 conditional judgments? Syat asti. Again, it's goes into Sanskrit words only. Syat asti. Relatively, a thing is real. So this is English meaning of that. Syat nasti. Relatively, a thing is unreal. Syat asti cha nasti cha. Relatively, a thing is both real and unreal. So like that, there are 7 categories using syat. So this basically is called Saptbhangi Naya. So these reflects reality's complexity, promoting tolerance by recognizing partial truths, as illustrated by parable of blind man and elephant. Now, this is again an important parable which they have given. So this subsequently also we will explain that, because Syadvad and this theory and Ekantvad we are taking up in little detail also. As I told, first we will understand the basics of Jaina theory, and then we will take up those 3-4 topics in little more detail just to understand what is how we can write good answers for that. So, bondage and liberation. This is again, let us understand here in brief. Again, we'll go in detail subsequently. See, just like other Indian philosophies except Charvaka, besides that, because they don't believe in bondage and liberation, all other philosophies in a way believe in liberation, that is moksha. And they say, Jainism, for example, soul from karmic bondage. So, soul is bound because of Pudgala, and once it is Pudgala is removed away from the soul, it becomes pure. And as we have seen that Anant Chatushtay, they reach a stage where they have infinite bliss, infinite knowledge, all those things. So this is what Jain's concept of liberation. Now, Jainism view karma as a subtle matter, as I have already told, karma, that binds the soul to the body through passions. Passions they call kasayas, like anger, greed, pride, and delusion, etc. This influx of Pudgala to soul is called asra, and binding is called bandh. So all these are Sanskrit words. We should use that, because definitely it will improve our quality of the answer if you use original words. Obviously, English words also, if you know, you can definitely write that. Obscure the souls have infinite qualities, because soul has infinite qualities, and this Pudgala, that is influx of by asra of Pudgala, there is a bandh is formed on the soul and it becomes bonded, and then it obscures the soul's infinite qualities. So this is what basically is Jaina's theory of this thing, bondage. Now, liberation is samvara. Samvara is another term, stopping of new karma influx, new Pudgala influx to soul. This is called samvara. Nirjara, eliminating the existing karma, that is existing Pudgala, by penance and ethical conduct, as taught by Mahavira. So this is Nirjara. So Samvara and Nirjara are 2 steps basically, which result in liberation. So complete dissociation from matter yields omniscience. That they call Keval Gyan. And residence at Siddha Sila. Siddha Sila is just like, say, Hinduism, they call Swarg, in Muslims, they call Jannat. So basically, that's what they call in Jainism, they call Siddha Sila, the realm of eternal bliss. So this is where the omniscient souls, or omniscient souls or liberated souls go and stay. The path to liberation, 3 Ratna, 3 jewels. This is path to liberation, which they say. Now, what are the 3 Ratnas? Right faith, that is Samyak Darshan. Right knowledge, that is Samyak Gyan. Right conduct, that is Samyak Charitra. So this is 3 Ratnas of Jainism. So these practices harmonize to realize the soul's inherent perfection. So this basically ensures this nirjara. So once you follow this right faith, right knowledge, right conduct, you will become, and what is right faith? Trust in Jaina's principle. So this is right faith. Right knowledge, clear understanding of soul and non-soul. and Tirthankara's ideas or their whatever they have preached. So that right conduct, ethical living, including the five vows, that is ahimsa, truth, non-stealing, celibacy, non-attachment. So these are the five vows which are important for right conduct. So this is Jaina philosophy in brief, whole philosophy along with their metaphysics, their epistemology, the bondage and liberation. Now we'll go a little go in deeper in just to understand what is anekantvad, because this question is important. So anekantvad is basically the Jaina doctrine of many-sidedness. So anekantvad, as the word itself suggests, many-sidedness. Uh, what it means is reality is multifaceted. So this is already it has been explained in brief earlier. So reality is multifaceted, and also truth is conditional, shaped by context, and rejects absolute assertions. So this is what their epistemology is, and both are related. Anekantvad and Syadvad are related, because once you say that reality is manifested in its infinite faceted, no one can know fully. It means that whatever one has to say only conditionally. So this is um, what means what is Anekantvad, as well as its connection with Syadvad. Now, Jaina's doctrine is often, this is again, I will say, GS4 ethics term. You should also, because once you are studying philosophy, because a philosophy student should have a very, very strong command for GS4 ethics paper, because most of what you study here, you can utilize there. So, for example, Jaina's philosophy is, many scholars have called it intellectual ahimsa. So, it's not only ahimsa in deed, but it even thinking, even speech. So, any kind of ahimsa is prohibited in Jainism. So, they are called basically intellectual ahimsa, and some scholars have given this term, for example, Jeffrey Long, for its non-confrontational ethos. Its primary focus remains metaphysical. So, basically, because of this, it is called the Jaina philosophy is called intellectual ahimsa philosophy. Now, uh, see, uh, what are core concepts for Anekantvad? Let us understand that. Anekantvad holds that ultimate truth, that is ultimate, what is ultimate truth? Keval Jnana, is the preserve of enlightened arihants, while others grasp only fragments of reality. So this as I earlier also we told, only omniscient, only arihants can grasp the full reality. All human beings can only know part of it, and they cannot know everything. Uh, Now, Anekantvad leads to basically two sub doctrines. So this also we need to mention, even if Anekantvad is asked, very briefly we need to mention that how it leads to two sub doctrines. Uh, First is Syadvad, that is conditional viewpoints, and second is Nayavad, that is partial standpoints. So Syadvad is basically, as we know, sevenfold prediction. So the method which Syadvad uses is Saptbhangi Naya. So these are seven things, seven which we have already also seen. Uh, Syad Asti, Syad Nasti, Syad Asti Cha, Nasti Cha. So all those things are there. So these reflect variables like time, space, or substance, affirming over absolutism. Nayavad is partial standpoints. So what are these seven lenses or seven partial standpoints? That also we should know. One is Nagamanaya, then then Vyavaharanaya, then Rajusutanaya, then Sabdanaya, then, and their meaning also it has been given. For example, if you say Nagamnaya means common sense, that is a point item. For example, Samagranaya means genetic, that is you have to genetically you have to describe as a pottery as a class. Vyavaharanaya means a pragmatic thing you have to tell, that is water holder, that the pot holds earthen pot holds water. Riju Sutranaya, it says that it talks about present, basically here and now. Shabdanaya is verbal, basically it describes the pot. So like that, there are 7 Ns, and these perspectives build a composite truth, basically. So they have given an example of Andhagaj Nyaya parable. So this is again very, very important, because this you need to mention in your answers also. Andhagaj Nyaya parable means, this was given, this was from Malli Sena's Syadvad Manjari. So in that book, it has been exemplified. And they have, I mean, the parable says that there are blind men describing an elephant, basically. How is an elephant? So a man who touches trunk says it's like snake. The man who touches ears, he says it's like fan. Leg, it says like pillar. So each, what Jainism says, that each are valid, but yet partial. So Mallisena argued that dismissing other facet distorts reality, reinforcing conditionality. So this is just like several blind men touching the elephant and telling how elephant looks like. The reality is like that, basically. So therefore, it has to be relative. I mean, your assessment or of the reality has to be relative, and therefore Sadvad and Nayavad comes into picture. Now, Anekantvad basically is important for soul and metaphysical synthesis also. So let us understand that how. View that soul mediating ancient India's debate on permanence versus change. Because see, as earlier also you have seen, Buddhism says it's momentary, it's Kshanikavad, and Advaita Vedanta says it's permanent. So here it reconciles both by Anekantvad. So seeing Jiva as a substance and process as a karmic evolution. So both they are permanent as well as evolving also. So this is what basically reconciliation between the two theories Anekantva has done. This synthesis bridged rival extremes, positioning Jainism as a philosophical middle ground. So this is what we understand, I mean, about Jainism. Now, how it compares to Buddhism and Hinduism, we have already understood that. Now, modern philosophy also, I mean, for example, Thomas Nagel's perspective, it parallels Sadvad, Alfred Whitehead's process philosophy. This mirrors Jiva's dynamics. So Richard wrote his pluralism. It opens openness through non-relativism. So these modern philosophies also partly they support Jainism either metaphysically or epistemologically. So this is also important. Modern science, that is quantum mechanics, wave particles duality, relativity's observer dependent space time, and biology's multi-lens evolution echo its contextual truth. So this is also important. So modern philosophy also partly Jaina's theory of relativity, you can say, or relative judgment, you can say, is supported by modern philosophy as a modern science also. This is also important. Now, critical evaluation, if we see, definitely Nyaya has criticized that, Vedanta has criticized, Buddhists have criticized. So they have, for example, Nyaya says how Jiva and Karma can both be related and unrelated. So this is what their criticism is. Vedanta says that asserting contributory attributes cannot coexist. Being, non-being, both cannot coexist. So this is what their criticism. Buddhism says it permits absurdities like eating a camel by negating curd, exposing perceived over flexibility. So basically, what they say is suggest. I mean, the logic which has been promoted by Jaina promotes absurdities. So this is what Buddhism has criticized. Now, Jainism, there are internal criticism also. Some Jaina philosophers are also internally criticized. Modern philosophical this thing, if we see, Bertrand Russell's binary logic rejects its fluidity, arguing it dilutes precision. And similarly, if you see Lotfi Jada's fuzzy logic aligns with its spectrum of truth, suggesting a contemporary vindication. So they partly support Jainism, Jaina theory. Now, John E. Coate adds that its flexibility, while innovative, risked incoherence when pushed to extremes. So this is again criticism by uh, by John E. Coate. Now, modern relevance and legacies, this is again very important. I mean, this because from GS4 ethics point of view, also this is important. See, Anekantwad profoundly influenced Indian philosophy. Uh, and most important influence was on Mahatma Gandhi himself. So, because after the influence of Jainism on Gandhi, he became basically liberal Hindu, you can say, or Hindu to reconcile Hindu pluralism, blending personal and impersonal Brahm. Then it also, I mean, basically envisions a dialogue-based antidote to religious violence. So Jaina theory basically opposing any kind of violence as well as religious violence, addressing epistemic rigidity. The systems theory's holistic approach to complex systems like climate modeling mirrors its multiplicity. So basically here also Jaina theory can be used. Now 20th century reframing as intellectual ahimsa by A.V. Dhruv casts it as a bulwark against intolerance, resonating with modern Jains. So this is the basic of Jainas theory that uh, they oppose any kind of violence, whether it is intellectual, whether it is physical, whether it is mental, and this is what the greatness of Jaina theory. So this is what we can understand as far as Anekantwad is concerned. Now we'll go to bondage and liberation. This is again an important chapter. In brief, we have already gone through. So let us go in little detail. See, bondage or bandh is condition in which the soul inherently pure and infinite becomes entangled in material world. So this is the definition of bondage as far as Jaina is concerned. And how it happens? Through excessive attachment to worldly desires such as kama, artha, etc. Uh, and basically the root cause of bondage, according to Jain, is ignorance or avidya. I mean, this is root cause of bondage not only for Jain but even for other systems of Indian philosophy also, except Charvaka, that avidya or ignorance is the main cause of the bondage. This ignorance is not merely lack of information, but a fundamental misperception of reality and an inability to distinguish between eternal and ephemeral. That is Sat and Asat. So this is the main cause of bondage. Now, binding the soul to a cycle of suffering and rebirth, this I mean this happens because of that. Now, in bondage is the soul's imprisonment in a false reality shaped by delusion. Now, theory of karma as far as Jaina is basically, Jainism views karma as a tangible material particles called karma pudgal. So, this is what Jaina's theory of karma. Now, these microscopic particles, invisible to naked eye, are attracted to the soul through its actions and emotions. This is what Jaina theory of uh, matter as well as bondage also subsequently, if we see. Now, the soul, though non-material and luminous by nature, becomes coated with these particles, much like dust settling on the mirror. This coating links the soul to a physical body, perpetuating its bondage across lifetimes. So this is the main reason of the bondage, what Jaina theory says. The mechanism by which karmic particles adhere to soul involves kasaya. This is another term which they you have used, which means passions or sticky substance. Passions or sticky substance. This is what meant by kasaya. Jainism identifies 5 types of kasayas. 5 types of kasayas are there. 5 key kasayas actually. That is ignorance, anger, greed, pride, and delusion. So these are 5 key kasayas which make the soul bound through karmas. Now the process of liberation, how it starts? The process of liberation starts in 2 stages basically. One is ashrava, that is, or the process unfolds in 2 stages. Ashrava, influx of karmic particles, and bandha, they are binding to soul, cementing the soul's entrapment. Now, the path to liberation. Let us understand what is how we reach to liberation. Liberation is its freedom, the restoration of its pristine infinite state, because before bondage, the soul is anyway has infinite state or pristine and infinite bliss. Now soul, this liberation is known as moksha, kaivalya, or nirvana in various Indian traditions. In Hindu traditions, it's known as moksha. In Jaina, it's Kaivalya. In Buddhism, it is known as Nirvana. So that also we should know. Now, liberation in Jainism is ultimate goal of human existence, and it is for the most of the Indian philosophy actually, except Charvaka. For all other Indian philosophy, liberation is the main ultimate goal of human existence. Now, how it is liberated? How a soul is liberated? Soul sheds all karmic impurities and regains natural attributes, infinite knowledge, perception, power, and bliss, and become liberated. How it happens? Uh, Now there is a structured path to liberation. We have earlier also seen that is three ratna, three jewels basically, which serve as both principles and practices. Now, what are three? Number one, Samyak Darshan, that is the right faith. This is unwavering belief in teachings of Tirthankaras. So, this is what Samyak Darshan. Now, Samyak Gyan, what is Samyak Gyan? Right knowledge. This is intellectual and intuitive understanding of soul's true nature, distinct from body and karmic matter. It involves studying Jaina scriptures such as Agamas and Tattva, Varta, Sutra, and internalizing the distinction between self and non-self. So this is what Samyak Gyan. Samyak Charitra is Samyak right conduct. What is it? Now, Samyak Charitra encompasses ethical living. Basically, this means ethical living aimed at purifying the soul. And this is achieved by 5 great vows. What are 5 great vows? One is Satya, then Ahimsa, then Asteya, that is non-stealing, then Brahmacharya, that is celibacy, and Aparigraha, that is non-possessiveness. So all are basically Sanskrit words, and the English, you can understand them. Now, together, these jewels forms a holistic framework. Faith inspires knowledge, guides, and conducts transforms, and the soul becomes liberated. The process of liberation, 2 stages are there. One is if you asrava, that is first stage is Sambara, and then second stage is Asrava. Sambara means stoppage of influx of karmic particles, and Asrava means the removal of the already existing karmic particles in the soul. So this is what Samvara and Asrava, and then they make the soul liberated. Now, second stage in Nirjara. Now, Nirjara involves shedding the karmic particles already bound to the soul. Now, when the last karmic particle is eradicated, the soul achieves Kaivalya. That is complete liberation. In this state, it embodies Anand Chatushtaya. Now, Anand Chatushtaya is also, I think in 1 year it has come, what is Anand Chatushtaya, how it is achieved. So, this is in a way talking of liberation only. So, this also we should, this term also very important, Anand Chatushtaya. That is 4 infinite attributes. This means 4 infinite attributes as Jaina philosophy enunciates that a liberated soul achieves. Now, what are those 4 infinite attributes? Infinite knowledge, infinite perception, that is Anant Darshana. Infinite knowledge means Anant Gyan. Infinite power means Anant Virya. Infinite bliss means Anant Sukha. So these are together contribute Anant Chatushtaya. So a liberated soul now, a Siddha, attains Keval Gyan and ascends to Siddhasila, a transcendent realm at the apex of universe. Unlike the cycle of birth, Siddhasila is beyond time and space. So once a soul reaches there, the life and death, or this life and birth, this whole cycle is beyond that. Now, critical evaluation, let us understand what. Now, Jana's framework of bondage and liberation offers a compelling and systemic approach. I mean, as we have seen, it's a very, very systematic. They have each and every minute thing they have explained, but it invites critical scrutiny. What are that? Let us understand that. There are some strengths also, because it's very, very meticulous, and it binds with its metaphysics and as well as its epistemology, and then it integrates its whole process in such a way that each and every minute detail has been worked out. So these are its strengths. But what are its challenges? Let us understand that. Now, if karma is physical, how does it interact with non-material soul? This is the issue raised by basically Sankhya and Yoga also. So this is our other Indian systems of philosophy. They have raised this issue. Now, interaction lacks empirical verification and may strain credibility for those outside the tradition. So this is again Empirical verification is not there, because this is only some idea which has been propagated, and anybody who is outside Jainism faith may lack a belief in that. Then uh, uh, I mean, basically this dualism, karma and jiva, has been criticized by Shankaracharya, has been criticized by Sankhya Yoga. So dualism complicates the notion of liberation by framing it as a separation rather than realization of oneness. Then another criticism is regarding its practical feasibility. The path to liberation, even though it's methodical and very systematic, demands extraordinary discipline, especially for lay practitioners. Because five great woes, though adaptable for householders, uh, set a very high bar, may seem unattainable in modern materialistic societies. So this is again unattainable kind of objective they have put before that. For example, in Jaina, if you have read it, there is a practice called Sallekhana. Now, Sallekhana means uh, voluntary fasting unto death. Now, this kind of practice conflicts with contemporary views of sanctity of life also. So the gradual process of nirjara implies liberation may take countless lifetimes. This is again a criticism, because the whole process of liberation or attainment of moksha is very, very difficult. It has been made so difficult that, usually anybody outside the faith or even within the faith, it's very difficult to achieve. So this is another criticism. Now, comparative context, what are the comparative contexts? Because Buddhism, Nirvana is there, then Vedanta's Moksha is there, then Jainism, Kevalya stands out for its focus on individual soul purification. So, if you compare with both. Now this individualism avoids reliance on divine entity, appealing to self-reliant seekers. So basically here, if you see, uh, the reliance on divine entity is very, very minimal, or almost there is no reliance. It's only self-discipline and self-practice which can make you liberated. So this is what strength of Jaina philosophy, appealing to self-reliant seekers, but it lacks relational or devotional warmth found in theistic traditions like Bhakti Hinduism. So again, this is another criticism also, because if some theistic traditions are there, so their devotional warmth or relational warmth is available for a if you can say for a believer. So this is this lacks here. Additionally, concept of Siddhasila as a literal place introduces a cosmological specificity that contrasts with more abstract liberation goals, inviting debate about its necessity or plausibility. Now, if you see, Siddhasila, till Siddhasila, Jainism appeared to be very kind of realistic thing. But once they introduce the concept of Siddhasila, it again becomes something like they're contradictory. I mean, earlier they are very realistic. Now suddenly they have promoted a cosmological entity, which is very difficult to believe. So in summary, if you say Jainism approach is rigorous and philosophically rich, yet its complexity, its ascetic demands, and metaphysical assumptions may limit its universal applicability. So this is again a negative thing. Uh, Now, what is conclusion? If we see this intricate interplay of cause and liberation reflects Jainism's profound vision of spiritual freedom, a path from delusion to omniscience, from captivity to eternity. The other things are same repeated things, so that you can go through. Now, third important thing which we will go a little deeper is Jaina Syadvad. This again, it has several times it has come in exams, and is very, very important. Now, Syadvad, as earlier also told, is basically uh, epistemology of Jainism. And Syadvad means is, it's a Sanskrit word, Syadvad means could be ism. So its meaning is could be ism. So is a cornerstone of Jaina epistemology, and it promotes Jaina relativism. So central to all Jaina philosophy, Syadvad asserts that all propositions about truth are inherently finite, limited, and context dependent. So, and as I told already, it relates to ontology of Ekantavad. Ontology means metaphysics. I mean, in direct, if you relation, if you understand, ontology is basically sub part of metaphysics, but yes, many times it is used interchangeably also. So ontology of ekantvad, it's related, because once you say that reality has many infinite modes or infinite qualities, definitely a human being can uh, perceive only few. So therefore, this Syadvad is required to be truthful or to real. So every judgment is prefixed by word Syat. That is perhaps or in some ways. The meaning of Syat is perhaps or conditionally or in some way, thus avoiding absolutism and fostering a conditional perspective. Syadvad stands as an independent system of logic, emphasizing that reality's complexity prevents any single proposition from fully capturing its nature. Now, etymology already I have been told. Syat is, there are two words. Syat means perhaps or maybe. Vada means assertion or doctrine. So, any statement or doctrine which may be or perhaps becomes Syadvad. So, these are two Sanskrit words which have been used to form it, Syadvad. So, and it means in some ways or from a certain perspective, this truth is there. Now, relativity in Jain philosophy, I mean, this directly means relativity or Jain relativism. So Jaina philosophy prioritizes samakyata, that is rationality and logic, and three interrelated doctrines of relativity. So there are three, I mean, all three are related. And earlier also we have seen Anekantvad, Syadvad, and Nayavad. So these are the main three doctrines of Jaina, and all three are interrelated, because Anekantvad says reality has many aspects, infinite aspects. Syadvad says that we can only predict conditionally something, we can make a statement which is conditionally. Nayavad says theory of partial standpoints. So basically, all three are in a way related, and it gives Jaina makes Jaina philosophy relativistic or promotes relativism in Jaina philosophy. So this is what we should understand. Now, Saptvangi, what is Saptvangi? Is a vehicle for basically Syadvad. So Syadvad manifests practically through Saptvangi, a method of expressing truth via seven conditional propositions. So this is what Saptvangi, sevenfold prediction. And this is a vehicle for Syadvad, or manifestation of Syadvad, you can say. So as I already told, now seven statements: Syad Asti, Syad Nasti, Syad Asti Cha, Nasti Cha, and all those things are there that you can go through. Now, by considering these perspectives, Saptvangi underscores the multifaceted nature of reality and guards against the fallacy of absolutism, aligning with the broader theory of manifold predictions. Now, again, we have to quote the parable of blind man and elephant. So this is again very important. And this has to be quoted for Anekantvad as well as Syadvad also, because reality is multifaceted, means Anekantvad and reality, multifaceted reality, one cannot know everything. So Syadvad has to be there. So this example has to, parable of blind man and elephant has to be quoted here. And this same thing parable has been explained. So that already we have explained, that you can understand. Now, what is the critical evaluation of this thing? Doctrines of Anekantvad and Syadvad have faced criticism from Indian philosophical systems also, because they say that it fosters hesitation and uncertainty and complicate rather than resolve issues. This is the criticism. Now, criticism argue that Jaina epistemology, while asserting its own validity, struggles to refute contradictory doctrines, definitely. And some suggest that if the reality is too complex to be fully described, Syadvad itself becomes incomplete, so rendering it self-defeating and akin to absolutism, that is Ekantvad. So this is the main criticism from Indian philosophical schools of Syadvad. Now, Jaina has given some defense also. No, it's from some standpoint, and same thing, because you cannot make absolute judgment. So there you have to make conditional judgment. So therefore, this Anekantvad and Syadvad are both correct. So this is what they have explained. Now, criticism from Vedanta and Buddhism. So see, in both, for example, Vedanta has argued that contradictory attributes, being and non-being, cannot coexist on entity. Much like a heat and cold cannot occupy the same object simultaneously. This is their criticism. Buddhists, what they have done is, sarcastically, Buddhism has, or Buddhist philosopher sarcastically questioned, if all things have dual nature, why not eat a camel when offered curd? So this is what was their sarcastic comment. And because it implied that if curd is curd and not a camel, absurd conclusions will follow. So this is what Buddhism criticism. Now, what is its value basically? Intellectual ahimsa and religious tolerance. This is very, very important contribution of Jainism, because and particularly Anekantvad and Syadvad. They foster intellectual non-violence by encouraging Jains to recognize truth in other philosophies from their respective perspectives. The non-absolute stance rejects dogmatism. So this is very, very important contribution and value, particularly to modern world, if you can see. And this tolerance extends to contemporary issues. Many scholars, such as Kamala Jain, argue that Anekantvad and Ahimsa offer solutions to religious intolerance, terrorism, resource depletion, and environmental crisis, which stem from adversarial positions between humanity and nature. Modern systems like democracy, secularism, and freedom of speech implicitly reflect Anekantwadi spirit. So this is very, very important contribution of Jainism, and very valuable contribution, and that we should know. Now, influence of on Mahatma Gandhi. This important because again from GS4 paper also important. I will tell you, because there Jainism is also important. Mahatma Gandhi is also equally important, and the ethical theories of both are quite important. But here, just I want to say that on Mahatma Gandhi, Jainism influence was extremely tremendous, and this has been explained in detail here. You can go through. But what I want to say is Gandhi's unique interpretation of Syadvad tied to Satyagraha and Ahimsa emphasized acting on personal truths while learning from opponents, fostering love over resentment. So this is what Jainism impact on Gandhi was there. So with this, we conclude the Jainism along with important topics in detail. And now I will come up with the question for this week. Now, this is the question. Discuss Jaina theory of Saptavangina in 400 words. Again, I am repeating because a few students are sending questions weeks earlier, which I have raised. So that